Hello and welcome back to the Nest and Inside the Iggles live show. Thank you guys very much for joining us on this Monday, December 4th, where we're gonna talk about yesterday. The Eagles, I don't even want to call it a loss. They got humiliated by the 49ers 42-19. A loss is something that like maybe they like hung around for a minute. They were outmatched, they were outclassed, they were out athleted. I'm going to use it as a word. They were out athleted, they were out schemed, they were out everything. They were out everything, outplayed, and ultimately they got exactly the score that they deserved. Actually, that's not fair. That's not fair because they shouldn't have gotten 19 points. That was a garbage time thing. The point differential remained the same because the 49ers, rightfully so, answered right after after the Eagles scored their last touchdown. It was pathetic. It felt like a waste of time, a waste of energy. If you're mad, you deserve to be mad. If you're sad, you deserve to be sad. If you're indifferent and broken, God, man, I'm envious because I hate feeling emotions, but that's where we're at on a Monday like this. I'm going to bring in my co-hosts. We're going to talk about everything that we saw, a signing of a 28-year-old washed-up athlete. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Brandon Pockris and we've got Jeffrey Knox. How are you guys doing today?
Never quite ready to be on camera, am I?
I sneak up on you like that, I do. How are you guys doing?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Tell you
what? It's better to get these losses out now than in January.
It's not a loss, though. It's not a loss. It's not a loss. It was an absolute humiliation. It was disgusting to watch. You can't come. Walk me down. Somebody walk me down. Walk me off the ledge. All right, walk me off the ledge. Because here's the deal: is that if this game was close, because if right now the Eagles are not in a let's build and get better the next year, and we're a year away. We're Super Bowl or bust mode. That's where we are at. And in order to get to a Super Bowl, you're going to have to beat teams like specifically that team. You're going to specifically have to beat the San Francisco 49ers. And maybe if that game was a 27-24, you could talk me into like, okay, we just got to change some things up. And we can come back at them next time. Instead, we're looking at a 42-19 loss, and I'm sitting here absolutely guzzling, I don't know, the best unit of measurement, barrels of beer. My body's in shambles, my mind's in shambles, and it feels like somebody walked me down because this does not seem like this is something that we can overcome in February.
Well, it's not February yet, so I'm gonna say yeah.
What's going to change? What's going to change? You got Shaq Leonard, 28 years old, perpetually hurt. I don't. That does nothing for me.
This is the thing for me, man. These losses happen, especially if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I watched the Indianapolis Colts walk into Lincoln Financial Field, and I watched them walk the dogs on the Philadelphia Eagles. I saw the Tennessee Titans do the same thing in the night game. I saw Seattle do it. It happens. And then in 2019, I believe it was, we were in the middle of a playoff push and had to win the final games to get in and get a wild card. We lost to the Miami Dolphins in Miami. A very bad Miami Dolphins team. Not the Miami Dolphins that from this year. The Miami Dolphins that had Brian Flores as their head coach. We lost to that team. So these things happen. As we were kind of joking a couple minutes ago, I'd rather get these losses out in December than in January. But I think it's going to be all right. I think this is a knuckle up time. I think this is a gut check time. This team, as currently constructed and is currently managed, cannot beat the San Francisco 49ers. We found that out.
No.
But there's some good news. This is a team full of men. And as men, I expect them to just look at themselves in the mirror and say, you know what? These guys didn't just beat us. They punked us. They walked through warm-ups. They were disrespectful to James Bradbury. They surrounded him. Our linebacker put his finger in the head of security's face. These guys walked into Lincoln Financial Field, and they were totally disrespectful. And as men, what you're supposed to say is, you know what? That's not happening again.
Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it can always be worse.
Can it?
Yeah. You know, you look around at some other teams in the league. You know, some players reportedly don't want to, even suit up for their teams. So
who?
One,
specifically.
You know what I'm alluding to. It can always be worse. But from an Eagles perspective, I've had this thought where, I did think the 49ers were going to beat the Eagles. Did I think they were going to come in the Lincoln Financial Field and blow the doors off? No, I didn't think that. I thought it'd be a close game. But it goes to the point where I'm confident enough in this Eagles coaching staff, and this goes to why I'm not hitting panic alarm, just red alert right now after this game, where there's more than enough time for the Eagles to take this game, similar to how they took their other loss early in the year, and build from it and realize what their weaknesses are. And Sean Desai now can go back and look at this game and understand how to scheme things differently in the sense of, mitigating what hurt them and mitigating what, they struggled with. Like a big thing I'd say is working on like read keys and making sure like they keep track of their like players that they're supposed to, because a team like the 49ers, so much eye candy, so much motion, so many things to make the linebackers and corners keep their eyes in the backfield for long enough where guys come open and Brock Purdy's able to hit those guys. So, it's not the end of the world. There's a really important game coming up this weekend where the Eagles have a very, very big opportunity to return the favor to one of their division rivals after, the other juggernaut in the NFC did it to them. So I'm excited for that. But kind of like what Jeff said, this game was in December, right? Like there's so much time for teams to improve, teams to regress. There might be injuries. These might not even be the same teams if they meet each other again in the playoffs. There's so much time until this prospective rematch that it makes no sense to get, in a panic about it, because the Eagles are still the top of the NFC. They're still one of the best teams in the conference. And unless things just go completely south, which I don't think they are, I'm not going to really stress about one game where the Eagles get their doors blown off, where it's been the first time that's happened all season.
This team doesn't lose very often, man. They lost, and it was ugly when it happened, but we can't freak out over every single loss and everything. Now, this is a reason to freak out if we're going to do it. But I'm going to have to walk back a couple things I said. Nick Sirianni is like a loose cannon on the sideline. That has to change. Nick Sirianni has to have some sort of control over himself. Like, that has to change, like, immediately, because the team is taking their cues from him. And they're flying off the handle, and they're losing control and things of that nature. So it's almost like the inmates are running the asylum, and the asylum's run by a maniac. But that has to change. This team is fully capable of turning this around, regardless of what it looked like. I've seen them do it time and time again. This is a refocusing loss. I'll actually go back to 2000. Well, it was 1994. The Philadelphia Eagles are in Candlestick Park to play the San Francisco 49ers that we knew was going to win the Super Bowl. They got Hall of Famers all over the place. They had Jerry Rice, they had Steve Young, they had Deion Sanders. The Eagles walked in there, and they beat this high-powered San Francisco 49ers team by a score of 40-8. And San Francisco didn't lose a game after that that they tried to win. I think they lost a season finale against the Minnesota Vikings, but that Philadelphia Eagles team was never that good. Now, this San Francisco 49ers team is good, and we understand that, but this is a refocusing loss. And I'm glad it came, and it actually humbled this team. But with grown-ups on this team, Jalen Hurts, all kinds of things, we can actually figure this out and we can get this turned around. Now, I don't believe that we can actually beat this team. It doesn't matter where we play this team. If we have home field advantage, I think it only matters for the Cowboys, because the San Francisco 49ers I saw yesterday don't care if they come to Lincoln Financial Field.
Not even a little bit.
These guys showed up in black and they were here for a funeral. They sat here and they circled this game, and they circled this game since last January and waited for that until yesterday. This was their Super Bowl to some extent. And the Philadelphia Eagles, even if they lose to the Dallas Cowboys, I did the math based on tiebreakers and divisional standings and things like that, and out-of-conference games and stuff. The Eagles, if they lost to the Dallas Cowboys, would still control their own destiny. And by winning out, they would still win the division.
It's a 60% chance of getting the first seed, I believe.
60% chance of getting the first seed, but even if they lose to Dallas, they can still win the NFC East if they win out after that.
I'm gonna bring Travis in real quick because he got on. Travis, how are you doing? And convince me not to kill myself.
Well, 10-2. They had a 10-2 record in 2017. Had a rough loss in Seattle for their second loss. I mean, I think for doing reactions, the thing that stuck out the most to me was just the entire 49ers coaching staff. Just you could tell that they were planning for this game for a while. Like Jeffrey said, they were completely treating this like their Super Bowl. But just the coaching staff and the play calling seemed to completely play to the strengths of the 49ers players significantly more than the Eagles could do. Whether if that was on offense with Brian Johnson or defense with Sean Desai, it just felt like the 49ers just had a play call, had a game design, and stuck to it, and they completely played to all the strengths of all their players, even though they didn't have a great first quarter. And
They didn't have
the thing that stuck out, yeah, exactly. I mean, Brock Purdy didn't complete a pass till the second quarter, and even then, Brock Purdy didn't really do much. His passing chart, he only completed one pass more than 15 yards, and it was 16 yards down the field, and I mean, it wasn't really like we got completely like the secondary didn't really get torched so much as it was the linebackers got torched. And you see how he goes out and he signed Shaq Leonard today. So it would seem that the Eagles are completely all hands on deck addressing the problems. And like you say, if a loss comes, I'd much rather have it come in the first week of December than the last week of January. So that's what I've been telling myself all day. A regular season loss, you got to treat it like the early 2000s Patriots. It's just the regular season. So we don't care about it anymore.
And keep this in mind, too. We're talking about the two best teams of football, the Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. Even now, still the two best teams of football. Like last week, we beat the Buffalo Bills. The week before that, we beat the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. And everybody had this team at the top of their power rankings. Now, all of a sudden, we feel like this team can't play anymore. The two best teams played. One of them is coming off 2 straight games in the midst of a gauntlet. The other team had 10 days rest and didn't play in week 12. So they had 10 days to get ready for this game. So that has something to do with it too.
It's all about that context, right? Where it's like, yeah, you can look at it in a vacuum, but like there's other factors that go into, determining like, oh, this is why this happened and this is why that happened, right?
But man, there's just, and I understand that there are those other factors, and maybe those factors played into some of the things. Like if you're playing that many games, yeah. And Jeff, you brought it up. How's the team needs to look? They're grown men. They need to look themselves in the mirror, buddy. If I'm Nick Morrow and I look in a mirror, there's nothing there because he's nothing. He is nothing. Man, you're paid to be on the field. Congratulations, you accomplished that. Tackle now, dummy.
Jay. Calm down. He is not nothing. Remember, this guy led the team in tackles a few times.
Congratulations.
He's not a starter.
That just means that the guy's in your face.
Yeah, you're right. I think the problem I had with Nick Morrow, I think when I looked at the numbers, I think I don't remember how many times he was targeted, but they put up 175 yards of passing against this guy by himself.
I have some here.
Six completions on 8 targets.
Brock Purdy, linebacker. That was Nick Morrow too, right?
Yeah, Nick Morrow, 8 targets, 6 receptions.
I don't know if y'all saw this. Brock Purdy lowered his shoulder while running and tried to ram his throwing shoulder into a linebacker.
No, that was Roby that he tossed. Are you talking about?
Yeah.
This guy threw his throwing shoulder into a defender. The San Francisco 49ers came in to make a point. That point was, we told y'all what would happen if we were fully healthy. We're better than you. We're stronger than you. We're going to punk you. And that's exactly what they did. And the Philadelphia Eagles, at some point, as petty as they can be sometimes, had to look themselves in the mirror and say, we got punked in our own stadium. Jalen Hurts runs the quarterback sneak, gets to the end zone, and Fred Waters tried to punch the ball out of his hands like 10 seconds after the play is over. Like, they came in to physically intimidate this team, and that's exactly what they did. And I expect to see a better product next time these guys on the field.
I mean,
they will meet again.
It literally can't be worse. No. I mean, it can be, but good God, if it is worse, Jesus. Your boy's going to be going through it.
What do you call it? My whole thing with this, and I don't know if we want to jump right into it, is like the big thing in this game is that Kyle Shanahan found exactly what the weakness was on this Eagles defense, and he just exploited it over and over and over and over and over again. He basically, and look, there aren't many teams in the NFL that even have the personnel to do this. The 49ers are very unique in terms of having both the talent and the coaching to attack any defensive scheme. Shanahan basically is the first team that I've seen this year to fully realize, hey, the Eagles linebackers aren't good.
Yeah.
And then proceed to just absolutely bash them over the top of that weakness to the point where Deebo Samuel barely touched the ball. And it seemed like every time I looked up, he was running for like 60 plus yards because he
had Randy
the ball in
Moss.
space.
He had a Randy Moss stat line.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I wanted to go with this. That's a good point. Because Travis, you also brought it up. They didn't have the 49ers did not have a first quarter. It took them, and this might actually be an indictment on Kyle Shanahan. It took them 7 plays to be like, Nicholas Morrow and Christian Ellis are starting linebackers on this team. We should probably go after those guys. It took them 7 plays to do that. And then they finally did it. And then they only did that. It was truly an incredibly pathetic showing. And they did exactly what they should do, because this is how this Philadelphia Eagles team is built, is that this linebacker core is going to be weak. We've been talking about it forever. That's just how the team is. And man, they reap what they sowed. It was bad.
I want to read a stat real quick, right?
Oh, please don't.
So after the opening drive of the game, or opening the game with 2 back-to-back punts, the 49ers had 6 drives: 85-yard touchdown drive, 90-yard touchdown drive, 75-yard touchdown drive, 77-yard touchdown drive, 75-yard touchdown drive, and a 47-yard touchdown drive.
6 straight touchdown drives.
6 straight touchdown drives after those 2 punts.
And a victory formation in the 7th drive.
They need, as in the Eagles, to figure out what their linebacker position is going to be and somehow find a way schematically to. And look, I know this is like uncharacteristic, but like Jeffrey said, these are the 2 best teams in football. Like, I would go out on that limb as well. You need to start at least thinking about how you are going to counter the 49ers offense, because whatever they were doing yesterday, it doesn't work.
You mean run to the left?
What?
That play where they just run to the left, and then the play after that where they just run the ball to the left, and then they sprinkle in a throw to the left. Like, okay, so there's that video game out there, that wild card football game, and there's power-ups you can get. And one of the power-ups, you could put a force field on either side of the field. The Eagles defense just needed to play like that. Like, hey, right side of the field, don't even think about it. Put 11 guys over Trent Williams, because that's where the ball's going to go. It's so Mike, I was MFing everybody. You walk in my house, you get MF.
And I do. There are times we've seen this coaching staff just get out coach and out physical and not prepared. Like, they were not prepared for the Super Bowl. They thought they were just going to show up, do whatever they do, and they were just going to win a Super Bowl, and that didn't happen. They got out coach. They got out coach yesterday. Like, I don't understand why James Bradbury said 45 minutes after the game is over with that they were confused about what was going on. Like, we know the 49ers are going to use motion. We know the 49ers are going to use drays. We know they're going to use digs. We know they're going to do that. Like, I don't know why you weren't ready for this, but Nick Sirianni did a horrible job of getting his team prepared. And Nick Sirianni gave up not coaching. He gave up play calling for situations like this. So he can manage everything. So when we're doing something wrong like this, when the play calling isn't working, he can step in and supersede all this. Like, there has to be some type of adjustment to what's going on with Jalen Hurts. Something has to be done to get this guy comfortable, because you just can't retreat 20 yards from the line of scrimmage. And I'm going to get killed for talking about Jalen Hurts, but you just can't retreat 20 yards from the line of scrimmage and just hope somebody comes open 15 seconds into the play. That just can't happen. But
let's talk. We'll end up talking about offense, because that's a whole that's a conversation in and of itself. But yeah, I see where you're going with that.
Mm-hmm.
With they weren't. I don't know, man. And I think that's kind of going back to what we were talking about. I think that's part of it. The coaching, the game plan wasn't good. Maybe that also has to do with no, because they had an entire week to plan for this, but the 49ers had more time to plan. That's not. But I think when it comes to the time discrepancies for that, maybe that comes into the tackling. Like I said, you mentioned that they got out coached, but that doesn't stop these missed tackles, dude. Like, it was pathetic. Can you recall a game where they had that bad at tackling?
I can't put my finger on what it was, but I've seen this bad.
Cardinals in 2015.
That works.
Trying to tackle David Johnson.
Yeah, man. Like, it was all-time bad performance. It was all-time bad performance. And
Week
the
1 versus New England, same thing.
Yeah, no, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
Now my question for you guys, I don't know if you've thought about this. What is the fix for this? Yeah, they went out and got Shaq Leonard. I'm very clearly not convinced that that's a viable thing. That's like going from Terrell Edmonds to Kevin Byard. It's that level of change to me. Like it's not, you're not stopping a show or anything like that. I mean, is it as easy as be more aggressive, be willing to give up the long ball and stop the things that are short? I don't go to that 5-man front, have 3 safeties and 1 linebacker. What do you guys have an opinion on that? Have you thought of it?
I don't know, because it's like, for me looking at it, it feels like Shanahan is able to adapt to really anything a defense throws at him, especially if you have the personnel that just can't match up with his own offensive personnel, right? So it's like, I want to say, be more aggressive and bring more pressure, but then you're putting your corners in a situation where, as good as Debo is, Ayuk's the better pure wide receiver. So now you're leaving yourself open to having possibly Brandon Ayuk hit you over the top with, amazing route running and getting open that way. If you switch up like the type of defense you're playing, maybe McCaffrey has a bigger game now because you're going with lighter boxes. Like, it's so weird because it feels like every tweak the Eagles can make, the 49ers, which, once again, the main team that the Eagles should be concerned with outside of Dallas, it feels like they have an answer for everything. Oh, you want to like dedicate more to the outside guys? Okay, here's George Kittle now, just getting 10 targets in the game. It's like there's a counter punch to every punch they throw, and I just don't know right now. Like, honestly, like I don't know where. I guess the 49ers not having as good a personnel, I guess that would be my answer, and then you can build off from there. But I feel like that's a cop-out.
But man, I would challenge them to do that long ball. I would challenge them to beat you with Brandon Ayuk. Brock Purdy, intended air yards, so essentially his ADOT, 6 yards. That's the lowest in the NFL this week. Like, if you're gonna force that, buddy, you gotta back it up with some stank.
Well, here's the problem, right? He's shown he can do that this year.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
Like,
I hate his dumb face.
No, but this is the thing, right? We talk about Brock Purdy being a product of the Shanahan system. 1,000% correct. Here's the thing, though. He can make every throw within the system, which is why he works so well. And that includes the deep ball. The biggest thing that stands out for me with the progression Purdy's made, I forget the opponent, but when he stood in the pocket and threw that absolute moon ball to Kittle, that's not a throw Brock Purdy makes last season.
Oh, was that the one where he looked both ways, looked at a screen both ways, and then threw it right down the middle? Is that what we're talking about?
No, it was a throw up the sideline. Perfectly placed, pressure in his face, stepping up into it.
I don't remember who that was against, but I mean, I'm sure.
But it's like that evolution is where now, yes, I would still be okay testing him deep, but he's shown he can make those throws to the point where that isn't just going to be the complete answer to shut down this 49ers offense. It's a very complex offense with an Eagles defense that, as much talent as it has, there are deficiencies, and how you overcome that basically is going to be your answer to whether or not the Eagles go back to the Super Bowl or not. Point blank.
I think those deficiencies lie somewhere in the realm of the worst linebacker core in the league, 2 cornerbacks three cornerbacks who are 30 years or older, and then maybe you can sub in your nickel corner for a rookie. I think those might be those deficiencies that you're referring to.
I mean, hey, I was trying to be nice about it, but it's like that's going to where that defense improves is going to be the difference between them getting bounced in the playoffs and them making it back to the Super Bowl.
Eli Ricks is a backup outside corner. He is not a slot corner. Like, if Bradley Roby's not going to be in there, I don't know why why we would put Eli Ricks in there. Like he
Is-
just did a job.
Is Ricks the one that basically got tossed out the club by on that stiff arm?
Probably.
He got tossed by someone.
He got tossed by someone. I remember he got shook with like just
I
put
think Debo
around and changed direction. Like he
it was the Debo touchdown, I think, where he shook him and then he just took off like a rocket down the middle of the field.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're having so much trouble on third downs, because the Eagles are they're pathetic at third downs. Like, what is it? They're allowing 47.3% of third downs. Maybe. So I'm looking at the pillbox chart right now. Eli Ricks 5 snaps, all on third downs. I am a big common denominator guy. And if I'm seeing that, listen, I understand that you want to develop a rookie. I understand that. I understand that there's value to that. You know, maybe don't. Maybe don't is my response to that.
Yeah, he probably needs to sit for a while. Again, Bradley Roby, I'd run over by a quarterback, which I'll never forgive him for.
Okay, how did you guys take that? Well, on that broadcast, they were saying it looked like he was thinking Purdy might slide. Did you guys buy into that?
No.
This was
No.
I think
Greg
Olsen
tried to
had an
send a
all-time
message.
bad day.
If a quarterback gives you that, you have to take it as a defender. You have to make him sorry he did not slide, and he was not sliding when
he bounced off.
He just wasn't sliding at that point. You knew he wasn't going to slide.
Just like last night with that stupid Patrick Mahomes getting absolutely blown up on the sideline. Ooh, that got the blood pumping. I was full of fury, and I let it fly, baby.
I was going to bring that up. The Mahomes one is perfect to where like Travis said, if the quarterback shows you that, you go in and you prove a statement. You send the quarterback a message. The fact that a quarterback is running over a defender, and it's not like it's Anthony Richardson or like back in the day when it was Cam Newton. It's not like one of these just absolutely muscled up 6'5", 240 Mack truck quarterbacks just running over. No, it's Brock Purdy, the last guy you would expect to run over anyone. Send a message.
This team
fight back.
This team came in to send a message, and they sent it like, we are not afraid of you. We believe we're better than you, and we're tougher than you are. And the quarterback even believed that.
And then
the quarterback had no fear about putting his throwing shoulder into a defender.
And in response to that, the Eagles said, "Yeah, you shouldn't be afraid of us. You are going to outmuscle us, and you're absolutely going to have your way with us. Here, let me lie prone for you."
But it's only December.
Man, you're going to start running out of months.
It's like Travis said, though. The Seattle Seahawks point. This happened in 2017. The 12th game ended up being a loss. It was in Seattle. We were feeling a lot of those things, too. We were like, okay, we went on the road, and we got beat by the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe this team isn't a Super Bowl caliber team like we thought it was. Everything worked out all right. We lost to Miami with Brian Flores as their head coach. Not this Miami. And then to use the Miami example. Sometimes it just isn't your day in the NFL. If the Philadelphia Eagles drive down the field and those first 2 possessions turn into touchdowns, they're
let's talk offense.
Now it's like a different game.
That was something that, to me, like when you see in the Buffalo game, when you see Buffalo miss those field goals, and you think, that's something in the game that's going to haunt you later. I felt that same eerie feeling when you see. I hate 2 field goals to go up 6-0 when you've been in the red zone twice. You need a touchdown in the red zone. You need to set the tone. You can't, because if we score touchdowns on those first 2 drives, the Niners they're in a 14-0 hole in the second quarter, and that game probably does look a whole lot different.
Oh yeah,
they have to change how they call plays and everything, and then you can tee off a little bit and everything. It just wasn't their day.
Well, I mean, to that point, right? You get 2 touchdowns. Now your guys like Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat and Jalen Carter, now you're able to just bring that pressure and truly test Purdy and the 49ers offense instead of all of a sudden blink you miss it, 1 touchdown. Now you're in a deficit. Now you're the one that has to start clawing back. And this is the first game we've seen in a while. The red zone issues pop back up again. And I don't tell me if I'm wrong, right? Just this game in totality. It kind of felt like there was no flow with the game plan, everything kind of just felt like disjointed play calling wise, where it would be like they weren't, in my eyes, they weren't setting anything up for later in the game. It was kind of just like play to play to play, where they would go with something and then go back to something. And then it's like, oh, all right, Jalen, you do something and try to get us out. Like it just, the play calling in this one just felt weird to me. And maybe that's a byproduct of, the 49ers basically scoring every time they touch the ball. But I'm not 100% with that.
You're not wrong about that, and that's because most of almost the entire game, like that's what they were. And Quentin just why is Brian Johnson calling somebody? That's because that's all it was. That's all. What everything was. Hey, Jalen, do something cool. And then if you keep asking him to do that so much, guess what's going to happen? He's going to fall down backwards for what was that, like a 12-yard sack? You can't rely on that. Nine running back carries. Nine. There were 9, not even double digit. 9 running back carries. And I think I saw the snap discrepancies. Kenneth Gainwell 37 snaps, DeAndre Swift 36, Boston Scott like 9 or something like that. Like what on? I'm hot, man. Hot. I'm hot right now.
Yeah.
It's
interesting theory. I mean, I just can't say it enough, man. This is one of those things I think we're going to look back and I feel like I have nothing to base this off of other than just a hunch. I got no statistical data. I have no way to prove this other than past games that have nothing to do with this season. I haven't started talking about the 49ers game in 1994. I'm talking about all kinds of weird stuff that has nothing to do with this game. But I somehow think every once in a while you just need a loss that refocuses you and reshifts you. And I think we're worried about the size difference in what the point differential was at the end of the game. But I think that will also take care of itself. Like, it was a couple of weeks ago, not even a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, we were sitting here talking about the Miami Dolphins putting up 70. And we forget about certain things like, a team that hates their quarterback, doesn't really know their coach. They fly down to Miami, and it's Miami. So they have a little fun. Remember when Green Bay went to L.A. like a few years ago when they just laid an egg in that game because they were in L.A.? Sometimes that thing happened. I'm sure they're not partying in Philadelphia and stuff like that. But you got one team that was inherently focused on beating the other team, and they've been thinking about this since January. They had 10 days to prepare. That has a lot to do with it. And then once things started going wrong, sometimes things just snowball and it just isn't your day. The thing I'm most concerned about, though, is we keep talking about we haven't seen this team play their best ball yet. I'm going to have to start walking that back. I think we have seen this team play their best ball. This is it. This is what the Philadelphia Eagles are.
We're 12 weeks in, and if we haven't seen it yet, buddy, that means
we have seen the best of the Philadelphia Eagles so far. They're an inconsistent team with, at times, bad coaching, who has a head coach that blows up for no reason and has no accountability, no control of himself sometimes, who gave up play calling so he can watch everything, and he's not watching everything. So when you get to the point when you see him, Brian Johnson, and as Mr. Dockery said, calling too many pass plays, you have to do what Shane Steichen did to some extent. We talked about this time and time again. Shane Steichen was excellent at calling plays to get Jalen Hurts settled down if Jalen Hurts was struggling. That has to happen. It hasn't happened, and hopefully we start seeing it somewhere in the future.
I don't want to say it, but is that what is the play to get Jalen to calm down? The screen to Julio Jones? Because we didn't see that.
Definitely not that. Now I don't understand what Brian Johnson. I'm glad you brought that. I don't know what Brian Johnson thinks he sees that he can take advantage of with this screen. I'm not seeing it. I keep looking at the all 22 film. He feels like he has some type of glaring disadvantage that he can hold over like every team that he plays when he calls this. I'm not seeing it, but he seems to think it's there.
Quentin made a good point, right? And this is something I want to bring up, and I think it's been a trend for the past 2 weeks. All of a sudden, just it feels like out of thin air, the reliance on DeAndre Swift just isn't there as much. And maybe that's because he's a little banged up now. Maybe that's because like they want to get Gainwell and Boston Scott a little bit more involved. But it feels like that not consistency, but like even that reliance on the run game is just evaporating week after week. And now you're basically back to this Jalen's going to throw the ball 35 times and figure it out. And you're not setting up run that can help set up play action shots. You're not running the RPO game where you're giving Hurts some easy throws. You're just throwing him right into the fire and basically telling him to figure it. Like, it just, from a game plan sense, it just doesn't make sense, right? Where you have a way, you legitimately have a way that you could ease your offense into this game and establish a foundation, help to get them rolling. And they just don't stick with it, and they just don't do it. It's really baffling. And look, they have a nice runway after, I think, the Seahawks game. It's a very easy, or after the Seahawks game, it's a very easy last 3 games of the season.
Yeah.
But, with Dallas and with Seattle, they got to get back to this balanced attack. And maybe not even so much like a 50-50, but even just giving teams the idea that you will run the ball in a handful more situations could be so beneficial for this passing attack.
Does the coaching staff trust the running game?
You got the.
I mean, I think if you're Brian Johnson, the answer is pretty simple.
Penny. I'm sorry, Travis. Go ahead.
I was going to say you got to look at what the 49ers did to give Brock Purdy confidence. They ran the ball behind their Hall of Fame offensive linemen, and they didn't overcomplicate it. They have 2 great receivers, and they use them in their play calling where one attracts attention away from the other, and you can get just how they got Debo on drag routes. You can get Devontae Smith on a drag route open on a first down or a second down and build momentum off of that. It doesn't always have to be throw it deep on first down, quarterback draw on second down, and then tell Jalen Hurts to make it happen on third down. And as for the defensive coaching staff, I mean, the most that I could say you could probably do would just be to constantly be switching up your personnel, constantly be giving them different looks. If they are running over your linebackers or they are throwing right at your linebackers and taking advantage of it on every play, you have to switch up your defense. You have to switch up your personnel. You can't come out there with the same look play after play because they're going to do the same thing play after play. And that's just what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about that. Going into some of this stuff with Jalen, have it here. Ludicrously long time to throw. Where's it at? 3.72 seconds is what he was at. I haven't had listen, I'm not a film head. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at most of the time, but if there's something like that, I haven't watched all 22 yet, but I want to see what the hell is going on with these wide receivers where they can't get open. Like
the problem is they know that he's only trying to throw to 2 guys.
Okay, so I have the tab up. I watched one play. I think it was in the second quarter, and it looked like there was 2 reads. It was one throw it to Jack Stoll. The other one was Devontae Smith on that side, and then AJ Brown and then Quez on the other side ran a short route, and then they're like, oh damn, now we got to run across the field because Jalen's scrambling, and then Kenny Gainwell's there in the flat. Like it's a dump off. And Jalen took that a few times, but when it gets to be these third and longs or whatever, buddy, it's just not there for it. And I mean, part of me that's not play design. I think when we're talking about that second half where the Eagles are down a tremendous amount, and they only run the ball one time in the second half, I can't necessarily blame them for that because you're going to get the points faster by throwing to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. We saw that they both had good games. AJ Brown 117 yards, Devontae Smith 96. Like they both had good games. But it's just, is it the play design? Is it the routes that they're having them run? You see other teams like, it's like, oh, you see this triple move, he does double move, just it's going crazy and everything like that. And then instead we have AJ Brown, hey, run a slant. Yes, that's a good idea, AJ Brown. Do something else. Have him do something else off the slant. Something scheduled, buddy. Well, Come on. What are we doing?
This is my thing, right? AJ Brown looked at his stat line, right? Eight receptions, over 100 yards again, right? I feel like they could do a better job scheming him up early. Like we talk about, even Devonta Smith too. we talk about, right, getting Jalen in a rhythm and letting him just have easy throws, easy completions, easy schemed up stuff. The same goes for A.J. Brown. Get him involved early. Get the ball in his hands early. I'm not saying A.J. Brown is Deebo Samuel. Not saying that whatsoever. But why can't the Eagles take a page out of the 49ers playbook with him and start using him in a little bit more creative ways? Where, look, I'm not saying it would work. Maybe you line him up and just toss him a screen out of the backfield one play.
I mean, and that's the thing. We saw, was that in the Vikings game where he was like getting mad on the sideline, and then the next he went on an NFL record breaking streak of 125 plus games for 6 games in a row, and that's because right off the bat they're like, all right, let's give AJ Brown the rock 6 times in a row, have him score a touchdown, and we'll be like bada bing, bada boom. They have to respect the hell out of him. Everybody else can eat after that, and then now they're just like, hey AJ. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate all the work that you did. We know that you had a potential to get up over 1,800 yards this year. Guess what? Thanks, man. And then they just ignore him. And it's so frustrating to watch.
Some of that is smart. Like, you got Steve Wilkes on the other sideline. He's no dummy.
Of course.
Yeah, so Steve Wilkes is over there, and you have this situation where it's like, what you got to understand with him is they know that you're realistically not trying to get the ball to Julio Jones. There's no point in him even be out there. They know that if you get the ball to Julio Jones, we got the best defense in the NFL. We're not worried about Julio Jones beating us. And to the A.J. Brown point, I think a lot of that was in the beginning. A.J. went off, and that was a great run he had and things of that nature. But now teams are noticing that, and they're saying we got to let somebody else beat them. If it's going to be Devontae Smith, it's going to be Devontae, but it's not going to be A.J. Brown. And there are times where he's just so good and so physical and not necessarily fast, but quick in spots that he can make things happen anyway. But I'm gonna make 2 wild accusations. One, Jalen Hurts has a tendency, and I can bash Jalen Hurts a little bit because I know we can no longer criticize Jalen Hurts for anything, but I feel like I can do it because I was the only one defending him when everybody else said it should have been Carson Wentz. That was me. Travis, you know this. I bailed out on Carson Wentz first. I said Jalen is the guy. So I feel like I can say this. There's a tendency with Jalen Hurts, especially if things aren't going right, where he tends to press, he tends to abandon the pocket early. There were times when I think he started rolling. I don't think he needed to. And there are times when he does get down the scoreboard, and now all you're looking for is the big play, as opposed to just checking down and taking some things that are right there in front of you, because the 49ers were just composed enough and satisfied enough with just saying, we're just going to give you the underneath stuff, and we're going to let you beat us doing that if you're going to do that, but we still don't even think that you can run past us. We feel like we can run past you, but you can't run past us. The Brian Johnson thing is something different. And this is a wild accusation. Again, I have nothing statistical to base this on, but lists are coming out now, and Brian Johnson is being looked at as a head coach. And Brian Johnson wants to be a head coach, and they have like this. Watch, it's going to be Alex Tanney next. Brian Johnson's going to leave. Alex Tanney's going to become the offensive coordinator. Then he's going to be up for a head coaching job. But you tend not to get those by running the football. That just is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's same thing with Jonathan Gannon getting to head coaching things because he limited big plays.
Like an MVP caliber quarterback. That's how you get head coaching jobs.
I agree with the sense of like, yeah, defenses are going to want to take away A.J. Brown and maybe bracket coverage him, and you're not letting him beat you over the top. But it's like, even in that case, then why isn't Devonta Smith having more schemed up touches to give Jalen Hurts more throws early? When Goddard was healthy, they weren't scheming up touches. Like, look at what, and I hate to bring everything back to the 49ers, but look what they do to get Brock Purdy in a rhythm. They utilize the run game. Most importantly, they have one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in football, in Christian McCaffrey, right? But on top of that, it's easy throws. It's a 3-step now, where it's just like quick passes to just get them in a flow. And even if it doesn't work, it's still building up to a point that on that 3rd and 4th and 5th drive of the game, now they're able to open up more with that playbook. And now you're getting those big plays. So it's like a balance of like, yeah, you want to like set things up and you don't want to like give your hand and break out every great play you have for an entire game in like the first 2 series, right? But it's also like, you got to get your guys in a rhythm. Like, I'm pretty sure I said this in the preview of the 49ers game. you can't expect Jalen Hurts to be Superman every single week in the sense of if you go down double digits, if you go down by a score, it's not realistic to expect Jalen to bring you back every single time. And credit to him, more times than not, he has. He has brought them back. He has won them games by himself. But in the NFL, as the season goes on, as it gets colder, as these teams get more and more film, the reality of the situation is teams are going to know how to game plan. Teams are going to know how to slow down offensive coordinators. They're going to know what the tendencies are. They're going to know, hey, the Eagles do X, Y, and Z in X, Y, and Z situation. We're going to do this. And it's about how they respond. And I think that's where you're going to see the most bend or break from this team, as in, are they going to adjust and throw in those wrinkles to where this offense is still cooking and they're still putting up points and they're still doing great? Or are you going to see a steady decline of what's happening with the Eagles, where maybe Jalen isn't playing as well now, and now the offense isn't doing as well, and now you have to rely on the defense that hasn't been phenomenal? So it's very interesting, and I think for them to make that progress, that early portion of the game just has to be better. It just has to be better.
You're not wrong about that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like Travis brought it up immediately, is the 2 field goals right off the bat changes the flow of everything. I didn't prep you guys for this, but this seems like this could be a fun thing to do. Who do you think played well on offense?
Devontae Smith.
Devontae had a game, like you
said. Lane also. Lane absolutely sunning Nick Bosa. Incredible. That was that clip that's been going where he just not even arm. That's like like Greco-Roman wrestling. He brings Nick Bosa down onto the ground.
Nobody wants to hear this about Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa shows up big in games that don't matter. He's like Darryl Strawberry when he used to hit home runs, but we didn't really need him. Nick Bosa, like, what did he have? Like 0 sacks in the playoffs last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Nick Bosa, like, I'm not seeing the Nick Bosa everybody keeps telling me is there. I know he's great. I know he's talented, but I seen to get a lot of sacks when the 49ers are up by like 30.
Yeah, he's probably not very happy about Chase Young being there because he's racist. So that's probably part of it. That'll probably have his numbers go down a little bit. Now this one, Quez Watkins. What did you guys think of Quez Watkins' utilization in this game?
How many snaps did he end up getting?
Quez Watkins got
compared to Zacchaeus.
Okay, you guys talk while I count.
All right. Well, we're talking while you count.
I have it in front of me.
I think there was a pass interference call. Like, I just don't get it. What's the ref's name? Now I know this referee. Like, we had problems with him before.
Was it Sterator? I don't remember who the crew was.
No, I think Sterator is an analyst on like Fox now.
No, I think it's his son.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, no, but this is another guy. Let me pull his name up.
Was it Clete Blakeman?
No, but you're gonna know his name when I hear it because we always had trouble with this guy.
Yeah, I'm running through the notorious ones. So we got Blakeman, we got Sterator.
Those are good guesses. Good guesses.
I have the numbers.
Alex Kemp. Alex Kemp.
Yeah, that's another one. That is another one.
Alex Kemp. 2 of the Eagles' regular season losses in 2022 with Alex Kemp officiating. 6th time in the last 30 games that Kemp is headlining a 49ers game. San Francisco is 4-1 in those games, now 5-1 in those games, and now 4-0 on the road with Alex Kemp as the official.
Yeah.
I ain't one of those just blame the rest for everything, guys. But I'm just telling you, it's just something to this. Like, I hate when he's the official.
So Quez 44 snaps, OZ 24 snaps.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I liked the utilization of Quez Watkins there. I did. Okay, so what did he have? He got 3 catches on 4 targets. I liked that they took that shot to him. That ended up being that non-PI. I like that. Make them respect, like what we've said, and we've kind of mocked it, but make them respect that he has the speed to stretch the field, because that can potentially open up some other things underneath. They also used him on a screen pass. I kind of like that too. If you got that kind of a burner guy, give that to if you're going to do a screen pass, do it to Quez rather than to Julio Jones or Jack Stoll. Do that kind of a thing.
If you have a screen pass, do it to Olamide Zaccheaus and find ways to get this guy in the slot and get him into open space. Olamide Zaccheaus, I watched some Atlanta stuff. Olamide Zaccheaus in space is dangerous.
He's quick.
We just seem to refuse to do that.
Like that's the thing. It's like you can use Watkins for the deep ball, but like Zaccheaus is a great third receiver too. But they just, once again, this offense with Goddard out just becomes a Devonta and AJ funnel.
Yeah, and I think that's. But you were going to say something, Travis.
I was going to say I do think something that we saw used a lot last year too with Shane Steichen. Whenever Jalen Hurts needed to be calmed down, was we did see a lot of tight end screens with Dallas Goedert, and when we see him back, that's something I'd like to see a lot more of this year, because those are plays that, especially now when defenses weren't really expecting it that often when we called it last year, when we actually had it in the play sheet. Now, when it's something that we haven't even used all year, we were to use it, I think that's a play that you could see calm Jalen down, get you in second and short situations, and running the ball. Just got to run the ball more.
That and the spam and Dallas Goedert theory and everything. That's actually how we used that to set up the Zach Pascal touchdown last year. The only touchdown he had, it was like the fake Dallas Goedert screen thing. So it's ways you can build off of it, like Travis is saying. It's just that's be done. We need creativity.
Go ahead.
Also, can we see Rashad Penny activated? Because I think he would be, in theory, right? In theory, I'm not guaranteeing this. In theory, could be exactly what the Eagles need, aka a power runner that can get them a few yards here and there, like 4 or 5 yards, and just keep them ahead of the sticks.
And there's no reason to use Quez to try to use his speed as some type of decoy, because nobody thinks he can catch.
Man,
Brian Johnson has only called 12 games. Like, we keep forgetting that. Like, that's part of it too. Like, I'm not a fan of this, like, just get guys who never called plays to call plays and stuff. And it worked with Shane Steichen, and that's the saving grace for all this and stuff. But teams win with guys who have coordinators who have called plays before. That's how this league works. You have to have some experience in the play calling department. And I just don't understand why we just refuse to do that. And at some point, they're going to have to just rethink the scheme a little bit, get some linebackers who can actually play, and just stop hoping guys like Nakobe Dean are going to be great and stuff like that. I'm not ready to give up on Nakobe yet, but
I am.
You got to stop hoping these. You notice the 2 games that we lost in 2 games, teams that got great linebacker play. Jets, great linebacker play. San Francisco 49ers, great linebacker play. That helps you win in the NFL. Like, not just pushing the pocket all the time.
Arguably the 2 best linebacker groups in all of the NFL.
2 best, yeah, true.
I do think that if something happens, like you mentioned, Brian Johnson might be up for a head coaching job, and if we do see Sean Desai kind of get taken away last minute, the way kind of Jonathan Gannon was last year, there comes a point where the Eagles should look for someone from the outside, a head coach who can control situations. I'm not saying they have to go get Frank Reich and try to remake the 2017 offense, but they should look to get a head coach who has seen a lot of things in the league, because Sirianni is also a guy who hasn't been a head coach for too many years. People forget it is only his 3rd season as the Eagles head coach. And maybe having a guy who's been around for 20 years and really just isn't a coach anymore, the head coach that is anyway. You know, there does come a point where it can't just be promote from within every single time.
Yeah, what's Matt Patricia doing?
It's either promote from within, or we got to find the new guy. We got to get Ray Rhodes. We got to get Andy Reid. Andy Reid worked, but we got to get Doug Peterson. We got to go get Chip Kelly out of college and stuff. We want to be the smart team that goes and gets the guys that nobody else seems to think is ready to do this job. And it's like, I liked Jim Caldwell a few years ago. And then Jim Caldwell is the only thing that made the Carolina Panthers offense look pretty decent. But we don't like experienced coaches. We want new guys. If
Buffalo blows up the season and Sean McDermott gets fired, he should absolutely be a coordinator for the Eagles next year.
To that point, Travis, if the Jets continue to spiral, If the
They're
Eagles
gonna.
aren't, okay, agreed. If that becomes a possibility where things are just unsalvageable there, Saleh probably would be one of the best defensive coordinator possibilities on the market. And if the Eagles aren't happy with Desai, I mean, you bring that scheme in there. If there's one thing, if there's one thing Saleh can do, what is the Eagles' main weakness right now? Linebacker. Saleh, whether it's been in San Francisco or with the Jets, has not only found good talent, he's developed good linebacker talent. He's turned a guy like Quincy Williams, who, mind you, Jets didn't draft. He was picked off the scrap heap, off of waivers from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Saleh's coaching has turned him into an all-pro player. If that becomes a possibility, a team like the Eagles, who has struggled so much with linebacker play, would be perfect because Saleh would have the defensive line that he loves to have, that attacking unit. He would have the secondary, and all he has to do is develop linebackers, really. And bam, that defensive unit could skyrocket in a year or two.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong with that. That seems like that'll be a conversation that we have down the line.
Christopher Pugh says we must owe Quest money, which is why we won't get rid of him and stuff. Isn't this like year 4 for him? Isn't this the last year of his rookie deal?
Probably.
Yes.
Man,
I don't understand why they don't move on guys and try to trade guys if you can get some kind of value. I think, regardless of whether we want to believe it or not, you could have got some kind of value for Quiz and maybe Derek Bonner. You don't just have to cut these guys. Try to get something for them. I'd take a 6th-round draft.
I'm gonna trust Howie on that one though. I think Howie did his. If there's a person, 2 people I trust, like I've said, it's Jeff Stoutland and then Howie Roseman right behind that. I trust that they tried to do the things, or that he tried to do the things to move him if that was possible. But again, I don't hate his utilization this game. They only did the deep ball on him the one time, and he drew 2 guys to him. He had the safety and the corner on him. Listen, I am not a Quez guy.
Something tells me he ran into coverage.
Well, listen, very good chance that happened. It was an underthrown ball too.
Something tells me he ran somewhere he had no business being and ran into coverage.
That is very good.
All 22, baby. We didn't talk about Shaq Leonard.
If you guys want to talk about him, he doesn't do anything for me.
I like the signing, but it's also like, to Jake's point, we talked about it a little bit before the show. I mean, he really good player when healthy. He just hasn't been healthy. So once again, could be a great signing if he gets on the field, but how much are you actually getting out of him?
I mean,
probably the best linebacker the Eagles have now just by walking in the building. But
that is very true.
Their point, yeah. To your point, Brandon, he's just not that guy, and we can abandon this theory as far as I'm concerned that something would have changed yesterday had he been available. He wouldn't have. Shaq Leonard is not stopping Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey from going off.
No. And I think Zach Cunningham is better than he gets.
Yes.
I think he's underrated for what he does. Just about an hour. Do you guys have any other thoughts on this game at all?
Ready to move on.
Well, my only thought kind of ties into moving on to next week.
Yeah.
Very interested to see if Dallas takes anything from what the 49ers did and tries to translate it to
they're on the phone.
What they do.
They're on the phone if they'll talk to them and stuff. But I mean, this 49ers team is for real. They've blown out the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, who are really their only competition for winning the NFC. And they've put 40 on both of them and blown both of them out.
But I see their point differential, or their scoring differential against the Cowboys and the Eagles is, what was it, like 82 to 29 or something like that? Something pathetic.
They've also blown out the Seahawks, who are arguably one of the other best teams in the NFC. So,
yeah, something's got to change.
We'll see. What about you, Travis? You got any other thoughts?
Hopefully they peak too early.
I will leave you with this. If there are 2 teams or two figures who let you down every single year, at some point, it is the Dallas Cowboys and it is Kyle Shanahan. They are the Kings, getting up here, showing you these bright, flashy offenses that work well in December. They work well in the wild card round, and then for one reason or another, they just haven't been able to get it done. So hopefully, the Eagles do their job. They make it so if they see the 49ers again, they make them come to Philly again. And, it's a different story in the playoffs. They can wear all black and act cute and talk all the trash they want, but it's a regular season game. And if you're having your Super Bowls in December, then you're already putting limitations on yourself mentally as a team if this is the 49ers peak, where the Eagles, they do come out of this game feeling like they haven't given everything that they can give on this season. So it's now or never. It's for everybody. It's now or never, because if you lose in Dallas next week, it makes things significantly harder. Yes, they control their own destiny, but they got to go to Seattle after that. And if they lose next week, they probably aren't going to have the number 1 seed. So
I don't know if you was on yet, Travis, but I pulled up the numbers. So before we roll out,
there's like 50-something% that they get the 1 seed.
Yeah, they don't get the number 1 seed probably, but they can still win NFC East. Like, so if the Cowboys win next week, they're both 10-3.
The Cowboys have a rough schedule, but
they do.
And the Philadelphia Eagles still would control their own destiny by winning out. They'd be 14-3. Both teams would be 14-3, but they'd be 5-1 against the division, 10-2 against common opponents. The Cowboys would be. Mm-hmm. The Eagles would have 2 NFC losses and the Cowboys 3.
It would, I believe, what you're referring to is that it would come down to Jonathan Gannon beating the Cowboys.
Yeah, what would end up happening? Yeah, what would end up happening is the Cowboys would end up with 3 losses in the NFC, which they would look to first and things of that nature, and that would end up giving the Eagles a division. So,
what one thing is for certain though is that
let's not take it there. Let's actually beat Dallas.
in 3 weeks, we're very much going to be Lamar Jackson stands over when the 49ers play the Ravens. That's going to be a big one, but that's down the road. Anyway. Anybody else got anything else? Sweet. Well, let's put this one behind us as much as we can. Therapy session for everybody. Some people at the beginning of the show were losing their mind. Not going to name names. It's very important that we don't point out who those people are. Thank you guys very much for joining us on this episode of The Nest, where we talked about the Eagles getting their doors blown off by the 49ers yesterday. We will be back with you guys on Friday. It is Dallas week. Keep your eye out for some weird Skip Bayless tweets, because he's going to be a total weirdo pervert on Twitter. So keep an eye out for those kinds of things. We'll be talking to you guys before that game. Thank you very much for joining us. That's Brandon Pockrass. That's Travis Williams. That's Jeffrey Knox. My name's Jake Beckman, and we'll talk to you guys later. Go Birds.